지금 다운로드 받으세요.
Welcome back to the 2016 SPL Round 3. We're getting into our second matchup of the night. It's going to be Samsung Galaxy Con versus the Afreeca Freaks.
Very impressive run already for MVP. Here's the Freaks. I think a lot of people are favoring them tonight, but they are 1-2 and -2. A win today would be very important. And keep in mind, Alive is on a tear. He actually wrecked his group. Super as well. Got out of the group of death on Thursday, so definitely playing a lot better than we've seen from him in the past.
Yeah, and all these matchups are pretty close, even though I favor Afreeca for most of them. It's really a kind of an interesting day we have today, because I expected the first one to be close, the second one to also be close, and we have Deer versus Super first, as you guys saw, but then Reality versus Alive. Alive is like on a tear, as you were talking about.
Yeah, so this matchup between these two teams, when you look at the names and results of the Samsung players overall in their entire careers, they look to be the stronger lineup. But with the recent performances of some of these players, it's hard to. It's funny because you could really go either way on it. Solar, one of the most inconsistent pro gamers in Korea of all time, does very well online. He got top 4 in Star League. He's actually seeded into next season, but he has had a weaker record. He nearly got kicked out of the GSL. He almost did not qualify for Code S. And Reality as well, though, on Samsung, just got out of that crazy group of death. So there's a lot of story. Yeah, there's a lot of story and history in recent times in this group.
And Reality got out of that in second place, too. I think he went 6-3 or something.
Like that.
And Super went 5-4, I believe, to get out of that group, or 5-5, I guess. Or unless that was Reality that went 5-5 and Super went 6-4.
Actually, yeah, I think it was Reality. Reality got out because Hero lost the last game to Zest.
Yeah, right. He won that last game against Maru, and then he, Hero lost to Zest.
Yeah.
So, guys, we're going to jump into this matchup here. Samsung versus Afreeca. Deer versus Super. Reality versus Alive. Solar versus Bomber. And then Bravo versus Patience.
Well, let's, if you take a look at both of these teams, all the upwards arrows are finally, I've been wanting this since the beginning of the season, really indicative of their recent results outside of Pro League as well as inside of Pro League, because at first it was just Pro League alone. So you'd see, like, someone who was a GSL who just won the GSL championship, like with a down arrow. I'm like, well, all right, that's weird.
Yeah, like classic when he's got the down arrow. We're like, what the hell?
So I feel like this is going to be a really cool best of 5. Definitely should be a closer one than the one we just watched, which also should have been a closer one than it was. But MVP stepped it up. And,
if there's a chance for either of these teams to 3-0, I think it's going to be Afreeca. Super over Deer and then Alive over Reality, I can kind of expect. But then that Solar versus Bomber game is really split. Bomber's just as inconsistent as Solar is, and they're kind of, now they're going head-to-head, and it's like, well, I don't really know who to pick. I don't want to pick either of these guys.
I'd rather
I want to vote for Zest. Can I just vote for Zest in that matchup, or
that's
what?
What you should do.
Because he always wins most of the time.
That's one of those votes where I just wish I could abstain, so it doesn't affect my record, because, it could go, literally either way.
It's crazy. Zerg's not doing too well, so maybe Solar is feeling the hurt from that, and maybe Bomber can pull that one out. I did vote for Solar myself. I think he went for Bomber.
I went for Bomber. I did. Started to spoil the voting results there, but I did. I voted for Bomber, and we'll talk more about that as we get into that game. But let's talk about this first one, because this one is also a tough game to call. Deer 7-3 in Pro League over Super's 1-3, but Super played the best PvPs of his life on Thursday. So it's like, how do you really say who's favorite here right now today?
I think it's Super. He looks like one of the best PvPers in the world. He was taking games off of Zest and Hero like it was nothing. He's like, no, I just know how to do this. I'm just really good at this matchup. The other matchups, he was struggling a little bit, but he was still taking games. So Super is really getting on that Afreeca hype train, right? And just practicing and doing really well so far.
So Deer is 6-2 in total over him here. And let's take a look at the vote. You're, again, the only foreign caster to vote for Super.
I'm actually really surprised by these results. I mean, Deer is a fantastic player, but Super is looking great. Of course, Deer did have all those games to watch and study of Super's PvP, which is something we always have to mention here. So we'll see if Deer's got something prepared here for Dusk Towers, or is Super's consistency in the matchup going to pull him through? Let's jump into game number 1 between these two players. Down here in the bottom left in the red for Samsung Galaxy Con, it's Deer.
And up to the top right, in blue, his opponent, it's Super. And man, is this going to get exciting. I feel like part of the reason why Super did so well in that PvP group was his ability to deny information in the mirror matchup, as well as a few games we had where some of his opponents made uncharacteristic mistakes. And if I'm not mistaken, it was him versus Hero on that first map where Hero tried to do the all-in. It was similar to the game they played in the Ace match, actually, earlier this round. And then he just held it off because Hero made a few micro mistakes and just didn't play the best game of his life there. I'm not trying to take anything away of Super's, but I just do feel like it was not it was a great performance, but it was not mind-blowing. It was not a Zest performance.
He's not quite there yet, that's for sure. And Deer is also the ace player here for Samsung, and it is a best of 1. When we play those crazy marathon days where players are playing 10 games stretched out over 9 hours, obviously people are not going to be playing the best StarCraft of their life, but I mean, both these players are preparing here for this one best of 1. It's a much lighter load. And by the way, do you remember if Deer got out of the group? I'm not 100% sure.
He did. He barely got out. It was a really close group.
Yeah.
I actually caught the tail end of that broadcast while I was in Sweden, and I haven't been able to catch up on the VODs yet because I've been saying for this specifically. And
sorry, I'm not laughing at you. The lights just randomly came on to the casters. I don't know why.
Maybe they're going to put one of us on camera or something. I don't know, but possible. One thing I did want to point out from something that happened earlier, and this is not the biggest deal in the world, but if you looked at where Super's probe went, he wanted to scout Deer's base, but actually went down behind the minerals. That actually will happen automatically if it's impossible for the probe to path to the location you tried to scout it. So you can actually get information if there's a tight wall or not if you see where your probe is going without actually going up the ramp. So that's just something I wanted to point out for newer players. You can use that with your DT if you're I'm not sure if the Terran has a wall off or not, and I don't want to go all the way up because it might have a turret. You can actually tell if there is no wall. Obviously, your unit will just directly go up there. But that's just something. That's a little thing. And Super did get denied the scout, and he knows there's a tight wall, but Deer got the full scout.
Yeah, and Deer actually went for a sentry first, which is not generally something we see all that often. That means he's going to have a very early hallucination out on the map, so Deer very focused on his scouting so far in this game.
I think that says he thinks he's the better player here, and that he just doesn't want to get caught off guard by anything.
Yeah, I mean, look at his probe in the top left. He's scouted literally every corner.
Yeah, and I think this flight council is just going to be for Blink. Because if you scout, if you're scouting this much, this aggressively, the one thing that you want to find out too is if they're going to have a third base down, and Blink is going to allow you to punish that. And if they don't have a third base, you can still be aggressive with it in this matchup right now. Yeah, he's not checking for that third base yet, though. He's still more concerned about proxies, it looks like.
And it's getting to the time now where he's going to know about the proxy just because there's going to be an Oracle in his base. So I agree with you. I would like to see that probe go over and scout the third. He is sending out the Phoenix hallucination either way.
Alternatively, he could be... See, this Phoenix hallucination is not going to see the third base, actually.
Well, let's see.
Okay, he will see it.
He's going to come over here, and here we go. He does scout that.
I think this probe is, well, it's making it in a different location than I expected. I thought he was going to go up towards the 3 o'clock base and just make a pylon and a gateway there just in case. Or a pylon and then maybe later on a gateway after he scouted the third base to pressure it. But it looks like he's going to take his own third base and might hide something down there. Could be a late Dark Shrine. But it's got to be something, right? This is a weird pylon placement. I think it's
definitely, with the probe there, definitely going to be coming out here. But already an Observer being made as well as a Forge. So Super is going to have all the tools. He just needs to have them in the right places and use them well. And, man, Super's really just been all about the early expanding nowadays in PvP.
Yeah,
he did it
twice.
First. Yeah, twice against Hero on Frost. And that's a really big map. This is also a very big map. And so he goes for the third base fast instead of that natural.
Cool probe snipe there, by the way. That was pretty neat. I mean, he just wanted to go up and poke and see what he could find. He grabbed a probe at this stage in the game with 2 Stalkers versus like 2 Stalkers in the Sentry. Good micro there. Double Forge coming up for Deer. We might be in it for a long one here, guys. And we haven't seen a PvP that went late game in a while. Most of the games we cast on Thursday were decided in the early mid game.
Yeah.
Ooh, this could be a huge snipe because the Dark Shrine is now finishing. It's nearly done, and that Observer kill is pretty huge. Does he have another one?
Yeah.
He's got just the one here, right?
Yep, just the one here at the front. But it looks like Deer wants to press the issue. You know, he's not done with this. Maybe he wants to try to poke his head up the ramp and snipe another one.
Yeah, he could snipe that. Look at his Stalker positioning and the Observer that's coming across. He wants to snipe the other one. He wants to go over here and punish that. Okay, it looks like he's going to go for a blink instead, but when the units come by, he can go for the snipe.
And this is so cool, too, because he's going to draw a bunch of units back into the main to deal with the Stalkers, and at the same time, he's going to drop into the back door. So the Observer is at the front. It's not going to be here at the back door base, so this is going to force a huge pull and should be able to get a lot of kills, too.
And it's that horseshoe I'm talking about all the time, man. By the time he brings the Stalkers back here, the DT's going to be sent to the front.
Uh-oh.
And look, here comes one over here. This is an incredible amount of damage already. 6 kills.
Oh, Deer actually just running into the overcharge is not the best control, but he is getting a lot of damage done here. Huge pulls on both the back door and the third base.
He's still microing his Stalkers in the main as well, getting more damage there. And look, he's actually going to kill his pylon. It looks like instead of killing probes, but he could be doing more.
Yeah, should be going for the probes. Where's that Observer? Okay, there it is. Looks like it is taken out. Does not get the pylon either. So now we have to ask the question, was it worth it? He gets 10 probe kills here. I think he lost, maybe 1 Stalker. Not 100% sure about that.
Look at the production tab, though. Look at everything he's working on right now. Like, I think this was a case of misallocated resources. I think if he actually only microed his DTs and picked them up on the Warp Prism and hit the backdoor base and hit the third base and the backdoor base, that would have been more effective than actually trying to get damage on with the Blink Stalkers at the same time while macroing at home. I think it was some misallocation of resources because the Stalkers did very little. And I think if he had microed his DTs better, that could have done a lot more damage, especially the DT that was hitting that pylon for so long when there were juicy probes nearby. Like,
could have gotten at least 5 more kills, maybe more.
Yeah.
So now Super, he wants to actually move across the map here. His +2 is not done just yet, but he does have actually the same amount of units here basically as Deer. Very even game so far, and that's kind of the way it felt from that harass. You know, it didn't seem like Deer got too far ahead or that Super got too, that he denied it well, really. It was just kind of an even trade there.
Yeah. Well, this base, because the units are out of position, will have to be canceled, which is a big win here for Super. And this is the map where you can see a lot of pressure on that 4th base because it's a big map, but when you go from 4th to 4th, that distance is quite a bit smaller. We see this hold position skirmishes where players don't want to waste their Zealot charges, and they kind of just hold position on the edge, out of range of the other Protoss Death Ball, and hit the Nexus with like just a few Stalkers. And we're going to see that stage of the game here commence in just a moment, but Super is going to commit to a move out first, and I don't know if he actually can take this fight.
Yeah, it's very close in terms of the army supply, and actually Deer getting slightly ahead here. He's going to need that Warp Prism very close by if he wants to take this fight, but he's very confident about this. He really does want to take this fight here.
He does have the better upgrades for a moment right now, +2 attack, although there is the +1 armor for Deer, and he's actually about to be 2-2 versus just the 2 attack of Super.
Yeah, keep in mind. I guess if there was a time to attack, it's now. There is a nice little run by actually coming in here from Deer. He does have that Warp Prism out on the map. Looks like he's going to go directly for the 4th base.
All right, well, this is right when Super's committing, and this may force him to actually go into that commitment, just simply because the harassment that's happening at his fourth base. A big fight here, and it's going Deer's way with the armor upgrades he has. This was just an unnecessary fight to take from Super.
He didn't have to really attack in here. He definitely could have backed off, so he just lost way too much stuff. And that's actually may just be the game. That one fight might have decided it here.
I think so. These units aren't getting away, at least not most of them. There's the blink forward to secure the kill on the Immortal. The Observer got killed as well, which is somewhat of an issue with DTs on the map. Dark Shrine was never cleaned off. And Deer, I think, is just going to do a one more warp in and then go for the final blow here.
He's done enough damage. You know, just a straight up not good idea by Super to attack in there. He attacked into the overcharges, and Deer had the advantage in upgrades. It was like, it was everything in Deer's favor, and he forced the fight. 8
Archons to 3, now 4, I guess, in this fight. And this is going to easily be a win here for Deer. Moving in, takes to the flying colors, and that should end the reign in PvP for Super. GG indeed. I think that he thought that Deer did more damage than he actually did, because that was expensive what Deer did. He could have done more damage, but it was not game-ending damage. I feel like he forced the fight. He was trying to poke, and he wasn't sure if he wanted to really commit, but when the Zealots rolled into his fourth, he was like, oh god, I can't not attack now, or I'm going to lose all my probes because I have to walk all the way back because I'm out of position. It was just a weird fight to take there, and he was fighting against the armor upgrades as well. As +3, it was ahead. He was like almost halfway done with it, but it doesn't matter because it wasn't finished.
Yeah, didn't quite look like the same player that we actually had on Thursday, for sure. And Deer just, you know, being pretty consistent. He's now at 11-7, doing pretty well for his team. And we are going to jump into a TVT up next. So this is the matchup of mirror matchups, at least in the beginning here.
Yeah, pretty common in Pro League because usually you pick a race that's good for the map. But Reality versus Alive should be a good one on Frozen Temple. Deer now 8-3, by the way, in PvP this season. Incredible record. So you put them on a Frost map, things are going to go your way most of the time. And I feel like you could have realistically probably beaten Alive or Bomber as well on that map. So a safe choice by the Samsung coach to put him on that map.
It's good. You get a nice start for your team, too, putting out your best player there. Reality also doing quite well. So, you know, Reality is a great follow-up to this. You make it a much easier game for Solar to take there if your team goes up 2-0. And although you know, Reality's doing a bit better, I'm kind of worried for him because he is going up against the masterful Alive.
Yeah, the new and improved
amazing.
Alive.
Yeah.
You know, just he suddenly started winning games in Legacy of the Void. Yeah. And he started off strong at the very beginning of Legacy of the Void. Then he tapered off a little bit, and everyone's like, okay, well, his style popped back up. It's, you know, Legacy of the Void's more suited towards his style, but then he started tapering back down, and now he's on the way back up again. So we'll see if he can do well here.
I almost felt like it was a case of like new expansion success where it's like, oh, he's kind of figured it out before everybody else, and that's why he's winning everything. And he's a very smart player, Alive is. We were talking to someone who was actually very close with him last night, and he was telling me all about his style where he's just like really, he's focused on his practice, not just so much grinding out 12 hours of games. He really he loves to look at all the replays and go over all the past games and, you know, really figure out how to defeat a certain player based on what matchup it is. And he prepares like 5 different builds for one map against one race. And he's a really cerebral player. And I don't know. It seems like things are just going really well for him nowadays. And I'm happy. I mean, his practice is paying off now, I guess.
Yeah, definitely so. And he does not have an easy opponent in Reality. And I hope we get to see a little bit more mech because Reality is so good at that, and I would love to see that clash again of Bio
Bring it
versus
back.
Mech.